welcome, Suzy Montero. We're going to get started with the first question. What do you perceive as the greatest obstacles to justice? What can we as a community do to address those obstacles? And if elected, what will you do to address those obstacles?
Okay. That's a complex question. Okay.
So you got 5 minutes.
Okay. To me, in my view, the biggest obstacle to justice is money. I would love to think that justice is blind, and that but justice is not colorblind, and the color that probably buys you the best justice is green. And so those people who can afford more high-powered lawyers, or insurance companies that have the resources to litigate longer and harder will sometimes be able to have an undue advantage in court. As a civil district court judge, there are avenues where the civil district court judge can somebody just walked in the room, excuse me. In the civil district court, there are opportunities for the court to allow litigants to pursue what we refer to as informa pauperis, which means that they don't have to pay any filing fees or court costs in order to pursue their claim. There are also options that are available through legal aid clinics, either through Loyola or Tulane, as well as other pro bono projects that I think that judges and lawyers should participate in, and should encourage the members of the bar to participate in, to allow people that need representation, that simply can't afford it, to be able to get the representation that they need.
Do you believe that all citizens have adequate access to legal help in the legal system? If not, what can be done to provide wider and better access?
No, all citizens do not have equal access to the legal system, and that kind of goes back to the previous question with regard to oftentimes one's access to justice is limited by one's pocketbook. One of the things that we do have in Louisiana is the contingency fee contract, which allows for people who have certain, usually it's personal injury claims, to be able to proceed, that their lawyer gets paid on a contingency, that their lawyer only gets paid in the event of recovery. Sometimes that's referred to as the poor man's door to the courthouse. You'll see situations when they're trying to do tort reform where oftentimes there's two things that you'll see float up when it comes into the legislature. One, that the loser pays, that if you don't prevail, you have to pay all of the attorney's fees and costs of the prevailing party. The other things that you will see in tort reform is an effort to try to curtail the contingency fee contract. I have always been a member of the LAJ, which is the Louisiana Association of Justice, which is pretty much dedicated to ensuring that private citizens have the best representation and access to justice in the civil courts in Louisiana. And I would fight to the extent that judges can work with the legislature to ensure the viability of both the contingency fee contract, as well as to fight off any issues with regard to loser pay.
Thank you. While serving on the bench, do you believe you have a role in bringing important legal or judicial issues before the public or the legislature? Why or why not?
Yes. There are areas where judges are hamstrung. They are bound by the rules of judicial conduct, and a judge can't advocate for. There's limitations to what a judge can do, but a judge is allowed to go to the legislature and testify before the legislature as to the impact that a law has on society. How does this law play out in real time? What does it mean when we say that this kind of evidence is admissible in a civil trial, and how does that affect the families and the citizens of Louisiana? So to the extent that there are issues that I think that are social issues that you can only change the law up in Baton Rouge, I would certainly consider that not only my duty but my obligation to participate in trying to educate the legislature as to the real live impact of the laws that they are passing, to the extent that I can, based on the rules of judicial conduct.
Okay, thank you. Sometimes the outcome of a case can be different depending on whether the laws are read literally and strictly interpreted, or whether the laws are read to comport with the intent of legislature, with the intent of legislature or a regulatory body. How would you address these situations as a judge?
I think that there's some pretty clear case law in Louisiana that the judges are not supposed to look for the legislative intent. That the statute has to be read, we use a Latin word that's called in pari materia, which is in the, not just the statute singly as one statute, but read it as a whole. What section of the code is it in? How does it dovetail with the statutes both above and below it? And that's where I think that the judicial discretion can best be exercised, to the extent that there is judicial discretion, because a law is not black and white. A law is both the words that are written as well as the area of the statutes where it is written and where you can find it. And that can be given some consideration by the court.
Okay, thank you. Lastly, describe a situation where you had to support a legal position that conflicted with your personal beliefs. Please tell us how you handled it.
I represented a man who was a property owner. He owned a apartment complex on the West Bank, and it was primarily Section 8 housing. And he had another apartment complex which was not Section 8 housing, and he was accused of housing discrimination. And the Greater New Orleans Housing Association, which is an amazing organization that is in New Orleans, it was run by a woman by the name of Stacy Scheckschneider at that time. They sent out testers to his property, and it was unquestionably one of the worst situations of housing discrimination that I had seen. We were not his original lawyers. He had had other lawyers before the firm that I worked for at the time, a firm by the name of Martzell and Bickford. We counseled him on the law. We counseled him on the evidence that would be admitted if the case went to trial, and we were able to reach a resolution of the case. Lawyers oftentimes, whether it's criminal lawyers and oftentimes civil lawyers, will be representing people that they dislike. Sometimes they will have to represent people that they abhor. Our obligation as an officer of the court is to represent our clients within the parameters of the code of ethics. And that also includes letting a client that you think may have a really bad day in court understand that the law and the facts and the evidence are going to be against him, and they may have a really bad day in court, and let them make the business decision as to how they're going to handle it.
Thank you. We have some time now, so the floor is yours to share with our membership and the individuals out in social media. It's yours.
Thank you all very much for your time. My name is Suzy Montero. I'm an attorney here in New Orleans. I've been born and raised in New Orleans. I like to say I'm New Orleans born and New Orleans bred, and when I die, I'm going to be New Orleans dead. I've been practicing for 25 years. My entire career has been in New Orleans. I have never gone and practiced anywhere else. I always wanted to be a New Orleans lawyer, and I want to end my career in New Orleans. I've had the privilege over the 25 years that I've been working doing virtually nothing but litigation, and a lot of my practice has been representing the voiceless and the vulnerable. I've represented victims of human trafficking in civil actions against the horrible pimps that have trafficked them. I have represented orphans in custody cases after a parent was killed in combat in Iraq. I have represented people in interdictions. I have represented young children who have suffered horrible brain-altering injuries that need care and need to have things taken care of for the rest of their life. I've had the privilege to represent pretty much everybody, every facet of Louisiana, from publicly traded corporations to orphans. I think that what separates me from the rest of the candidates in this race is that I've actually tried judge and jury trials in this court as well as in several other courts throughout Louisiana, throughout Southeast Louisiana, in state and federal court. I'm admitted to practice in all federal courts, the Eastern, Western, and Middle. I'm also admitted to practice before the Supreme Court of the United States. I bring with me to this race the experience and the wisdom that only comes with experience, with having been there and been able to see the problem. And so I bring with me the ability to be able to break through the weeds, cut through the fat, and get to the meat and potatoes of what needs to be litigated. When the court can help the litigants get there, it helps for a more efficient and quicker resolution to people's problems. You can learn more about me at SuzyMontero.com. You can also find my bio at the SuzyMontero.com or Suzy Montero for Judge on Facebook, at Vote Montero on Instagram and Twitter. It will also provide you the telephone number to my campaign, which if you want to participate and volunteer and work with us, we would love to have you. There's a lot of things people can do by themselves, but run for office is not one of them. I'm ready to represent the citizens of New Orleans, and I'm ready to serve as y'all's next judge, and I'd appreciate your vote, and I'd appreciate your support. Thank you very much.